Ladies and gentlemen, this is TVP World. I'm your host Benjamin Lee, and welcome aboard the Eastern Express. On this episode, we've prepared something that's not only geographically expansive, but could also be economically impactful. We're talking about the North-South Corridor, a trade route that's supposedly providing impressive income flows for Russia, who is the North in this equation. Now, who's doing the deals and who is being omitted? And more importantly, why should we care? Buckle up because we're about to embark on a journey that's as intricate as international trade itself. But first, let's take a closer look at our latest report to find out more.
Trade along the North-South Corridor has surged in 2024, providing a significant economic boost for Russia. This strategic route connects Russia to Iran and India, facilitating commerce and enhancing regional cooperation. By connecting the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf and beyond, the corridor strengthens economic ties and regional stability. It also provides Russia with an alternative route that bypasses the Black Sea, reducing dependence on existing transit routes. Azerbaijan serves as a crucial transit country within the North-South Corridor, connecting the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf. During the first quarter of 2024, trade turnover between Russia and Iran increased by 48% compared to the same period in 2023. This growth comes after a year of relatively subdued trade between the two countries. The North-South Corridor has played a pivotal role in revitalizing economic ties between the countries, allowing for smoother movement of goods and fostering diplomatic relations. India, positioned at the southern end of the corridor, has seen record-breaking trade volumes with Russia. During the first 3 months of 2024, the total trade volume reached approximately $17 billion. Indian Foreign Minister praised the corridor for its positive impact on bilateral trade, emphasizing its alignment with India's interests.
And now let's take a look at the issue in greater detail. First of all, let's understand what the North-South Corridor is. Imagine a network of roads, rail, and sea routes stretching from Russia through Iran to India. Sounds like a logistic nightmare, right? Well, but it's actually a strategic masterpiece. This corridor, which bypasses traditional routes like the Suez Canal, aims to boost trade efficiency and economic ties among these nations. And guess what? It's working. According to recent reports, trade turnover between Russia and Iran saw a whopping 48% increase in the first quarter of 2024 compared to the same period last year. Now I know what you're thinking. Why should I care about trade between Russia and Iran? Well, it's not just about these two countries. This surge signifies a shift in global trade dynamics. The corridor is becoming a vital artery for commerce, and that has ripple effects on global markets. But it's not all smooth sailing. While Russia-Iran trade is booming, trade with Azerbaijan, on the other hand, is down by 6%. Even in international trade, you win some, you lose some. But let's not dwell on the negatives because the Russia-India trade story is nothing short of phenomenal. In the first 3 months of 2024, the trade turnover between Russia and India hit a record $17.5 billion. Indian Foreign Minister has been vocal about the benefits of this corridor. He's called it one of India's top priorities, and for good reason. The corridor not only facilitates faster and cheaper trade routes, but also strengthens diplomatic ties. It's like killing two birds with one stone, but in a much more humane, no birds were harmed in the making of this corridor type of way. Now, let's talk about the man who's driving this initiative from the Russian side. Vladimir Putin, the bloated ruler of Moscow. Just last month, he touted the North-South Corridor as a more efficient trade route than the Suez Canal. That's a bold claim, but with the numbers backing him up, it's hard to argue otherwise. And that's not where Putin is stopping. Just last month, he approved a free trade agreement between the Euro-Asian Economic Union and Iran. Now, this pact is expected to save Russian exports several $100 million in export duties and other costs. That's like finding loose change in your couch cushions, taken to the utmost extreme. But let's not get too carried away with the positives. There are still challenges ahead. Geopolitical tensions, infrastructure issues, and logistical bottlenecks could pose significant hurdles. For now, it's important to remember that the North-South Corridor is more than just a trade route, but rather a symbol of Russia's need to diversify its channels due to being shunned by Europe. And now here to shed more light on the issue is Marcin Krzyżanowski, a Middle East specialist and lecturer at the Jagiellonian University. Hello, sir, and welcome to TVP World.
Hello, and thank you for your invitation.
So we're discussing the north-south corridor right now, and we're wondering, well, right out the door, I'm wondering if the growth of trends towards Iran and India is an attempt at skirting the sanction, or is it really some ambitious Russian project?
Both. First of all, is an idea how to better circumvent Western sanction. Both interested countries, Russia and Iran, at the moment are object of the severe sanction regime. For Iranians, it's nothing new, as the country is sanctioned since Iranian Revolution in 1979. But for the Russia, is quite new experience. And the corridor intends to, the intention behind the project are both economical and political. It's the tool to increase the trade exchange between Russia, India, and Iran, and also Azerbaijan and Iraq, and partially Syria.
All right, so the way I see it, there's some alarming trends when it comes to this China, Russia, Iran, and these countries that are strategically sanctioned by the West, trying to form their little block of economy, be it the BRICS, be it this trade corridor. Do you see eventually a parallel economy forming with bubbles in the West and those of the alliance of BRICS, for example, eventually forming like a parallel system?
Yes, but it is not. It's much more complicated. It's as the countries of BRICS, for example, Brazil, are at the same time parts of the Western economical system and, to some extent, a global South. Member of BRICS, a new member of BRICS, as Saudi Arabia is also well connected or tailored into the Western or Northern, whatever you want to call it, economical system. But as you said, initiatives as BRICS, initiatives as the North-South corridor, and various other political initiatives created by China and Russia are targeted to create an opposition to the Western dominance in the matter of economy and policy making at the same time. However, also especially for China, it is impossible to create completely parallel and not and separate economical system, as China rely on its export to Western countries.
Right, and coming back to the north-south corridor, Russia had been touting it as a very new, effective way of trade route, even comparing to the traditional Suez Canal in terms of efficiency and cost effectiveness. How do you think it really compares? Are they all actually hyping it up, or is it really that effective?
It is effective, how, or should I say, it will be effective, because the international North-South transport corridor was inaugurated, was opened a few times since the start of the initiative in 2002. So generally speaking, at the moment, the corridor is open, but not ready. And it is still the issue of Iranian railways, which are not as vast and not as effective as the, for example, Russian or India's. There is also an issue of the road network in Iran. So at the moment, the corridor is, as I said, a more initiative than a real competition to Suez Canal road. However, the works on railway part and works on seaports in Astara, the north, and Chabahar on the south are under progress. So in the next few years, after completion of all infrastructure projects connected to the corridor, it can be a competition for the Suez Canal, as it is much shorter. But there is also a question of not only capacity of the corridor, but the capacity of the economics of countries and potential for the bilateral and multilateral trade. As the trade exchange between India and Russia increased last year, still Russia is not the major Indian trade partner, and still West will be the very strong competitor in the case of trade in India.
Right, so there's still a lot of challenges that needed to be navigated. And as you said, I'm imagining that Iran, when it comes to logistic, is pretty much the biggest bottleneck that they have to overcome, or are there any other kind of logistical things that they need to lay out before being able to launch the project?
Definitely, as I said, more than 45 years of constant sanctions crippled Iranian economy and crippled Iranian capabilities, especially in the logistic and infrastructure. And that's the main reason why the corridor is not fully operational. It's not ready yet. And as I said, the completion of the whole project will take a few more years at least.
Right, and there's also the geological and geopolitical complexities when it comes to the Middle East and Central Asia. How is Russia or any other parties interested in this project involved kind of mitigate some of the issue coming out of these regions?
That's a very important issue. At the moment, fortunately for Russia and unfortunately for us, the region is under growing Iranian influence. Iran, first of all, is in the middle, is in the nexus for the project. We can just look at the map, and we will see that wasteland between the Caspian Sea and the Indian Ocean. Iran has a very strong influence over Iraq and Syria, is able to maintain good relations with Arabian Peninsula countries. Iran was able to position itself between Azerbaijan and Armenia during their conflict, although strongly supported Armenia. So at the moment, those rifts, those Middle Eastern conflicts, are problematic more for the West than Russia, not to mention Iran. So for those countries, disadvantages of the regions are seen as opportunities.
All right, so would you see this as a larger trend of shift in kind of global trade patterns? Or do you see this is more just kind of relegated to countries that are currently being sanctioned in the West?
Definitely the second option. The West, the Western economy is still the main economical force in the world, and Russia is not, to put it in simple words, Russia is not doing business more often with Iran because of the opportunities offered by Iran, but because the sanction. Russia is forced to cooperate with Iran, and Iran also is forced to closely cooperate with Russia and China. So Russia-Iran bloc, if we can call it like that, is the effect of foreign, Western, mainly United States, pressure on both countries, and not the fully free choice of them.
Right. Just to explore a little bit about that, do you think the sanctions and the isolation of some of the worst people in the world actually had the adverse effect of bringing them and consolidating them together?
To some extent, yes. The issue of Iran is especially interesting because due to sanctions, Iranian economy is in the constant crisis, at least since 2016. But at the same time, sanctions forced Iranian economy to be more resilient, to be more domestic oriented, and just the Iranian however the Iranian domestic products are usually, especially in terms of big tech and modern technologies, are behind the advantages of the Western industry, but still Iran is able to feed itself. Iran is able to maintain its own industry in every sector because of the limitation of on import to Iran. Iran was forced to produce almost everything domestically.
Right. Thank you so much for all your input and insight and helping us unpack this very complicated issue. Thank you again for being with us on Eastern Express. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
And now we're moving on to the Eastern News Flash, a series of all the other stories from the East that you don't want to miss. Now, Viktor Orban is traveling to Moscow for talks with Vladimir Putin. The journey comes days after Hungary's prime minister made his first visit to Ukraine since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of the country.
Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban is set to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow, a move that has raised eyebrows among European Union leaders. Orban, whose country currently holds the EU-rotating presidency, is the only head of national government within the bloc to maintain close ties with the Kremlin following Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. The visit comes after Orban's recent visit to Kyiv, where he proposed a quick ceasefire to expedite peace negotiations. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky did not publicly respond to the proposal, and many Ukrainians remain cautious about any ceasefire that could further solidify Russia's territorial gains. Orban's actions have drawn scrutiny, especially given his previous role in slowing down an EU aid package designed to support Ukraine's defense against Russia.
The charges pressed against the gunman who attempted to assassinate Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico in May have been reclassified as relating to a terrorist attack. According to the country's prosecutor general, the man was originally being prosecuted for premeditated murder, and he has been informed of the charge.
The attempted assassination of Prime Minister Robert Fico has been reclassified as an act of terrorism in Slovakia. General Prosecutor announced the change, elevating the severity of the crime beyond attempted murder. The perpetrator now faces a potential life sentence, and any public glorification of the act could lead to additional prison time. Fico, a left populist prime minister, was seriously injured when a government opponent fired several gunshots at him as he left a government meeting in a small town. The 71-year-old suspect, currently in investigative detention, justified his actions with hatred towards Fico and his government policies. Fico spent days in critical condition, but has since been discharged from the hospital, although he will need crutches during his recovery.
Belarus has become the 10th member state of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The announcement was made by Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev during the SCO summit in Astana.
On the second and final day of the summit in Astana, the SCO accepted Belarus as a member, advancing authoritarian leader Alexander Lukashenko along his anti-Western path. Lukashenko's pursuit of SCO membership over the past decade and a half aligns with his decisions to weaponize third-party migrants at Belarus' EU border and allow Russian troops to invade Ukraine from Belarusian territory. Lukashenko called Belarusian entry into the SCO historic, emphasizing the need to destroy the unipolar world and take responsibility for global security. Analysts speculate that this tie with the SCO may boost trade and economic cooperation with China while reducing Belarus's dependence on Moscow. With Belarus's inclusion, the SCO now comprises 10 countries, including India, Pakistan and Iran.
Documents adopted today.
Belarus has released its first political prisoners, and one of their names have been revealed. Opposition leader Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya confirmed the news. However, the move comes after conflicting signals from President Alexander Lukashenko.
The Human Rights Center Vyasna has announced that former leader of the opposition Belarusian Popular Front, Ryhor Kostyuso, has been released. The 67-year-old opposition activist had been sentenced to 10 years in prison for conspiring and is currently seriously ill with cancer. This marks the first confirmed name of a Belarusian political prisoner freed by the Lukashenko regime. Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya, who has been in exile, expressed caution and optimism about development. She emphasized that the regime had previously taken the lives of several prisoners, hence its actions should be perceived with caution. The release of these prisoners raises questions about Lukashenko's motives and the broader human rights situation in Belarus. While some view it as a positive step, others remain skeptical, given the regime's history of repression and violence against dissenters.
And that's all on this episode of Eastern Express. But for more news, update, and commentary, please stay tuned to TVP World.